Hey, it's Jonathan Matoshnik. Wanted to address the question regarding lowballers. And I get a lot of questions along this subject of guys that are just significantly underbidding work. They're coming in way too cheap. Their prices aren't realistic. You can't possibly compete. Maybe they're doing the work at less than cost. This question just comes up, the complaint comes up, the frustration constantly comes up in questions that I receive. So I wanted to make some comments on this subject and give you some stuff to think about. First and foremost, I'd say that I've been in a bunch of different businesses. I've owned a number of different companies in multiple different industries. And if there's one thing I've learned so far in business is there is no perfect business. There's always the perception, usually when I'm working with different business partners or different employees, everybody thinks, oh, if I was in that business, it'd be so much easier, it'd be so much better. Those guys have it so much easier over there in that industry. I don't believe any of that stuff. I've been in enough businesses, enough industries to know that the problems just change, but there's problems. As long as you're dealing with people and customers and employees, you've got problems. So there is no greener pasture. So when it comes to the subject of lowballing, again, there's lowballers in every single industry. There's dishonest people in every single industry. There are people that say things that aren't true to win the business. I'd say accept it. That sounds harsh, but really I think you've got to accept it because you're not going to find that this isn't the case in any other industry. So maybe in our industry we've got immigrants that are coming here and they're doing the work for less than Americans would do it. Or maybe you've got immigrants that are doing the work for just slightly higher than a wage slightly higher than that of what they would have made as an employee. So they're really undercutting the work. It's not a profitable number. So let's think about this. It's true. So I'm in the South. I'm in Texas. If there's an immigration issue anywhere, it's in Texas. And we are surrounded by individuals undercutting price. And this is true of any industry. But we're surrounded by this type of an individual that's leaving their employer, going out, striking out on their own to create a business and bid work. We're surrounded by lowballers. So I'm in the middle of the problem that everyone complains about. Yet we are building a pretty significant company, and I'm surrounded by guys building pretty significant companies. I can look at other southern states, California, Florida, Georgia, you name it. Guys are building big businesses. Talk to guys up north building big businesses. I was in a big cleaning company. We cleaned movie theaters all over the United States. We had workers all over the country. New York, lots of immigrants. You might not have expected it. They're there. They're everywhere. So this concern about lowballers and underbidding, it's true. It's reality, but you can win in spite of it. So a couple thoughts on this. Here are some ways you win. Number one, it's marketing. So what do the lowballers not do? They don't market. What do they not do? They don't do anything that puts them in a more professional light. They're typically making uh, they're basically making proposals and winning business solely on price. So you know as well as I do what happens with these guys. Well, they might win the business in the short run, and then they're going to lose it. They're either not going to call the customer back, they're not going to take care of them, they're not going to talk to them in English, they're not going to show up on time. I mean, the list is long. They're eventually going to lose the business. That client gets burned. Do you think they're hiring another low price individual? Probably not. They're probably going to say, screw it, I'm done with this, I'm going with a real company this time. So, the low baller market is not as big as you would think. It's big, don't get me wrong. So a couple other things to think about. So how do you differentiate yourself? Going back to it, marketing. You address in your marketing, in your sales presentation, all of the issues that scare the client, all of the issues that burn the client, that make them mad, all the things they can't stand about low ballers, all the things they can't stand about the low price guys, about the guys that don't deliver good quality. I've heard it said, and I don't know where I got the statistic, but only 5% of consumers in the United States make a decision based on price. I don't know if that number's true or not, but I think it's somewhere there in the ballpark. I really think, and we're experiencing it, when you present an alternative of what the client can receive if they work for you or work with you, and it's not based on price. It's based on quality. It's based on service. We're going to answer your phone calls. We're going to get out there and take care of whatever you've got right away. We're going to guarantee our work. You can go down the list. We're licensed. We only employ legal workers. We're insured. You can go down the long list of items. When you cover those items with your client, when you communicate that on the marketing, you're going to win a lot of clients. And I will say that the clients you don't want, the clients that go with the lowballers, are clients or the clients that you don't win, the ones that tend to go with lowballers, you don't want them. So don't be mistaken about who you want as a client. That is not the client you want. They're going to burn you. They're going to wear you out on price. They're going to negotiate everything. They're going to be slow to pay. Those are not the people you want. The people shopping for that kind of company, that kind of experience that solely care about price, and I believe it's probably 5 to 10% of clients, you don't want them. We do not want those clients. We don't even look for them. In fact, if we end up attracting them and they cause us a lot of problems, we ultimately end up canceling the account because it doesn't work out. So, how do you differentiate yourself? All those things I talked about from a marketing standpoint. Your pricing differentiates you. A number of other things. Think about it this way. So what does a lowballer go after? What kind of work do they go after? Generally residential. They're putting some kind of door hanger on the door. Now there could be lowballers in commercial, and those are guys that don't know their numbers. It's usually different. Or it's very small commercial. So again, lowballers and immigrants that tend to be lowballers, because immigrants constantly comes up in the questions, they don't know how to go get business, so they get the easy business. They get residential. Well, how do you differentiate yourself? You can do plenty, as I said, in residential, but then start to move up the ranks. Move into bigger residential, move into commercial, move into larger and larger and larger commercial properties. Get an irrigator's license. Get a license for fertilization and weed control. Licensing might be frustrating, it might be annoying, but think about it from this standpoint. And I agree, I think a lot of the government regulation is frustrating and it's annoying. But again, think of this. The more licensing you get, the more you do that is required of you in the form of licensing that's difficult, the less people there are that will do it. The less companies there are that will do it. So you have immediately eliminated a lot of competitors. The bigger the account you go after, the less competitors you have. More guys are scared of it. They don't know how to bid it. They don't think they can do it. They don't think they're good enough. They don't have the self-confidence. So the bigger and bigger and bigger properties you go after, the more licensing you get, you immediately limit a lot of competition. So as you move into higher and higher commercial, higher and higher residential, you start to compete more often than not with guys that at least have a basic understanding of their numbers. When a company understands their numbers, they slowly shift away from being a lowballer. Nobody goes into business and says, hey, I want to be the lowballer in the industry. I want to charge the least. What they really do is they go into business and they try to copy everybody else on pricing, or they try to undercut pricing, and they make their pricing decisions just based on being the cheapest. And then one day they wake up and they find out they're either bankrupt, they're in massive debt, they're going out of business, or their life sucks because they don't make any money and they have all the headaches. And then they figure out how to get it right and they're no longer the lowballer. Lowballers, I'm telling you, they don't intend to be lowballers. They just don't know what they're doing. So they're going to be driven out of business eventually, or they're going to figure it out. And when they figure it out, they're no longer a lowballer, and then they're the guys whining about everybody else in the industry that's a lowballer. So that's usually what you're dealing with. And as you move up the ranks and deal with better and better clients, they don't deal with lowballers, and lowballers don't play in that world because they're scared to, and because if they do, they get driven out of business really fast because they messed up their bids. So those are a few things to think about on lowballing. Move to a higher end client, do better marketing, position yourself completely different than everyone else, charge higher prices. Consumers make decisions on pricing, believe it or not. That's for another video. And get licensed, so that you position yourself into markets where you really don't compete with as many lowballers. So think about that. If you have any additional questions, fire me an email and I'll address it. Thank you.